Have you ever read the ingredient label on barbecue sauce? Unfortunately, lots of bad ingredients. Some examples are high fructose corn syrup, yeah, big thumbs down for me, modified food starch, preservatives such as potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, food gums, xanthan gum, guar gum, and let's not forget about natural flavorings. There is zero transparency in what that is. A better way is to make your own homemade barbecue sauce, such as these here that I made. I got this from the University of Georgia's canning website, so it's safe and tested. It also includes lots of homegrown veggies in the sauce that will not be strained out, so it will include lots of good, healthy, plant-based fiber to make happy gut microbiomes. In addition, I will be using heirloom tomatoes to make this barbecue sauce. Also, my own tomato varieties as well, since I am a hobby tomato breeder. This means we will have tomatoes every color under the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, and yes, even blue. I also use the Reber tomato strainer to make my sauce. This barbecue sauce recipe will start off assuming that you already know how to make plain tomato sauce. If you need a lesson on how to make tomato sauce, I will put a link in the video description. I use the Reber tomato strainer, and I highly recommend that for making your sauce. The original recipe, as well as my version, will be written in the video description. So what kind of tomatoes make the best barbecue sauce? Ideally, you want a variety with little to no juice. The best examples would be paste tomatoes and semi-hollow tomatoes. I have several years of intentionally breeding for quality paste tomatoes that perform well on my Reber tomato strainer. So hopefully in the future, I will be able to share these varieties. I like to take my tomato varieties up to the F8 generation before offering them. You can still use beefsteak and cherry tomatoes, which typically contain a lot of juice, for making the barbecue sauce. There are two caveats. One, it will take longer on the stove to cook that down, to reduce the volume or thickness of the sauce. My second trick is you can seed save the tomatoes first and then process those. Here is a bucket of tomatoes where I have seed saved the fruit, and thus all of the juice and seeds have been squeezed out, leaving behind the pulp and skin. So I know that this bucket here will produce a thicker sauce with less juice. Make your tomato sauce using either the Reber tomato strainer or the Weston tomato strainer. I have discovered that a double batch of this recipe fits perfectly in a large stock pot. So by having 2 stock pots on my stove, I can cook a quadruple batch of barbecue sauce. My written recipe is for a double batch, which will fit into 1 large stock pot. First, measure your sauce. I'm using a glass Pyrex 1 cup measuring cup. Very handy with the handle. I'm scooping it out of a 5-gallon food-safe bucket. We will need 32 cups of tomato sauce for 1 stock pot. Start heating the sauce on the stove while we prepare the veggies. Next, choose your peppers. I have about 200 plants of sweet chocolate. This is a beautiful bell pepper with a brown exterior and a brick red interior. The original recipe calls for both hot and sweet peppers. However, I am choosing to use all sweet peppers. You can swap out hot versus sweet peppers in canning as long as the volume is the same. Basically, use what you grow and grow what you like. No need to dice your peppers very fine, as they will be blended once they are cooked. I like this variety so much that I did a cross with it this past summer. You will need 5 cups of the chopped pepper. Next, we need celery. This is a pink celery that I bought from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. It really is a stunning pink color. It got plenty of moisture as I planted it on the edge of the garden in a low spot. However, it did need more manure, as manure often doesn't get on the edge of the garden when I'm spreading it. Despite the small size, it had a very strong and pungent celery flavor. Once I ran out of my own celery, I did resort to having to purchase some from the grocery store, which is the green celery here. The grocery store celery had bigger stalks, but less flavor. Make 4 cups of chopped celery. Also make 4 cups of chopped onion. Use whichever variety of onion that you like, preferably whatever you grow. I like the red ones. Here I have 3 bowls of veggies for 3 stock pots of barbecue sauce. Onions, pepper, and celery. Add all of your chopped veggies into the hot tomato sauce. Cook until softened. Next, we will be blending all of the vegetables. Yes, we are keeping all of the fiber and not straining it. To puree this barbecue sauce, you can see that I am using a Ninja blender. Now, to be honest, I found this to be the bottleneck of the operation. For starters, I don't like putting boiling hot food into a plastic blender. Secondly, it was painfully slow to do this. And despite my efforts to not make a mess, every time I poured the sauce out of the blender, it splattered all over my drywall. Although the Ninja did create a nice smooth sauce, it was very slow and messy. So this year for Christmas, I got an immersion blender. Man, I am so excited to try this next year. Cook and reduce the volume of the pureed sauce before the next step. 2½ cups of vinegar and 2 cups of dark brown sugar. You can see that I've added that in now. Next, I will be adding in all of these spices and garlic. You can see on the rim here where the original height of the sauce began and how much it has decreased after simmering it for several hours today. 2 cloves of garlic. All of my spices I buy from Azure Standard. 2 tablespoons of canning salt. 2 tablespoons of dry ground mustard. 2 tablespoons of paprika. I prefer smoked paprika. For the cayenne pepper, there is a range in the recipe. It's up to you if you want to go low or high on that. You would go as low as 1/4 up to 2½ teaspoons of cayenne. After making numerous batches, I have discovered that I like it as hot as it can be. So going forward, I will always use the maximum amount of cayenne. 2 teaspoons of Tabasco sauce. The recipe calls for black peppercorns. 2 teaspoons since I'm doing a double batch. It actually tells you to use cheesecloth, so you would place the peppercorns in the cheesecloth, submerge it into your sauce. When you're done cooking, you would remove that cheesecloth and remove the peppercorns. Rather than using cheesecloth, I'm going to use a tea ball. This is what you would use if you're going to brew some tea and have some herbs in here and make a cup of tea. So this is a nice metal item that I can use rather than cheesecloth. It even has a nice little hook here. Normally you would hook it to the side of your mug. I'm going to hook it to the side of the stock pot. And that way I don't have to purchase any cheesecloth. And it's better for the environment. It's reusable. I can just simply wash it and reuse it. I do make my own tea. I like to grow a lot of mints. So I will grow mint plants and make herbal mint tea. So I already have some nice tea balls on hand. And there is my 2 teaspoons, and it fits just nicely into this metal tea ball. This one you just screw it together, and voila. Now we can submerge this into the barbecue sauce. And there you have it. So those are all of the spices added to the barbecue sauce, including the vinegar and brown sugar. At this point, We're just going to allow this to simmer a little bit longer until it thickens just a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and do the water bath canning. So let's check out this barbecue sauce. It's been simmering for about 10 to 11 hours, which to me is insanely long. So you definitely need to do this on a day off and not on a work day. But I'm in the house, canning tomatoes and other things today anyways. So I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. Look at how beautiful this is. Nice and thick. So basically, if you look at the ring on the pot here, this is where it started at this height up here. So it has gone down, quite a bit here. So it is reduced in volume by simmering for that long. A lot of that water has simmered off, and now we have a nice thick sauce. Remove the black peppercorns in the cheesecloth or tea ball. It's time to fill the jars. I'm using a stainless steel funnel, as well as the ladle and stock pot. I really don't like the plastic funnels that come with the canning kits. I feel stainless steel is much healthier. There's no need to add any additional vinegar or lemon juice, as the recipe itself is already acidified and safe for water bath canning. The recipe calls for 1/2 inch headspace. Using your handy dandy canning measuring tool, make sure we have 1/2 inch headspace from the top of the rim to the bottom of the food. Wipe the lids to ensure a good seal. Next, place the lids and bands onto the jars. Remember, just finger tight. Lower the jars into the water bath canner. The processing time depends on the altitude in which you live. I processed for 25 minutes. And here are the finished jars of barbecue sauce. All natural, farm to table. The recipe is approved for pints and half pints. I did try both, and I will stick to pints in the future, as the half pints were way too small. Since I follow a whole food, plant-based diet, you might be wondering, what on earth do I use all of this barbecue sauce for if I don't eat meat? Two of my favorite uses are lentil loaf and zucchini garbanzo balls, pictured here. This is a recipe I came up with using homegrown zucchini and garbanzo beans. I have a playlist for multiple topics, including tomatoes, gardening, farm to table, sheep, and wool. Be sure to check them out.